Next up, we have Michael Finocchiaro from Finocchiaro Consulting, who has decades of experience in this space. He'll be giving his overview of what he has seen, the evolution of these generative tools, especially given his expertise in the PLM space.
Thank you, Duan.
So, Maurice, I'll get you to unshare so Michael can share.
Okay. Where's the share thing?
And again, any questions you have, please put them in the Q&A. We'll address them during the panel discussion.
Do you guys see my screen now?
We do. Perfect.
Awesome. So welcome, everyone. My name is actually pronounced Finocchiaro, and I'm a strategic advisor and a fractional technology evangelist. I've been in the industry about 35 years. I started on the CAD side. Actually, I think I crossed paths with Blake at some point at PTC when I was hawking CAD adapters back when those were a thing before NVIDIA. These days, I've been looking at a lot at this. Well, I've worked at PTC and Dassault, so I know a lot of people in the big three. And I've also started looking at the incredible startup ecosystem, including Synera and SemScale, who you'll hear about from later. And I'll talk about that. But the main topic is really what's actually changing beyond marketing noise in terms of AI and the engineering and discrete manufacturing space, so the commercially available software. Because when I look at engineering, I don't just look at the smarter tools. I see every company running two factories in the future, one that builds products and one that builds intelligence. In fact, Jensen Huang said several times at several GTC speeches that every company will have an AI factory, factory that makes intelligence, and that's connected to the one that actually makes the things. And what's striking is that we're already building that AI factory piece by piece right here on an engineer's desk, because every copilot, those amazing ones we just saw from Synera, these are, and every simulation that's Accelerate AI, every agent that's automating a workflow, these are all assembly lines for this new AI factory that we're all building together. And the infrastructure for this vision isn't coming. It's actually right now in these PLM systems, and that's what I'm going to try to demonstrate in this short presentation. So I'd argue that the AI revolutions are here. I would say there's three classes of solutions today. You have these Gen AI copilots. So that's more sort of a ChatGPT wrapper, if you will, if we're just looking at documentation. At the end of the day, it becomes agentic in class 2, but what you see today is just the one agent that talks to you and talks to your documentation. You move to agentic, and suddenly you've got, as really amazingly shown just before me, you have these amazing workflows you can do, and that could create automation done completely by the AI. I'd call the third class, another exciting class, the industrial metaverse. This is where you're combining engineering, simulation, digital twins, IoT, and you're able to model entire factories, entire systems in real time and get any changes, any updates directly back into the PLM systems of record. And then you've got, of course, the startups, the pace setters, the ones that can actually move far faster than the big three. I've looked at over 300 companies. I've talked to a bunch of them, including some of the ones on the call today. And they've raised over almost $6 billion. So almost, if you look at the startup market standalone, it's almost as big as Autodesk, Siemens, or Dassault. So we'll look at some of the technologies that are trending there and some of the hot startups, just to round out the discussion on AI. So I mentioned the first class. I call them PLM copilots. So these are Gen AI-powered assistants that are built into PM platforms that allow users to query and explore product data and documentation in plain language, ChatGPT stuff. But unlike just a normal ChatGPT, they've already been trained and grounded on enterprise content, the stuff that's already in the PLM database with engineering data, engineering processes, engineering rules, like a copilot. And I call this assistive AI. In fact, I have a longer version of this presentation. I don't have time to show today, but there's varying ways of describing these new agentic capabilities. I like the one that Aora Barry at PTC came up with, which was advise, assist, and automate. And I think these are almost already at the assist level. So what's alive today? What's actually being delivered by the big PLM CAD companies? Siemens announced that Realize Live that in 2506 they would have natural language search, visual search, and enterprise AI options, including being able to talk to your bombs. Those are on AWS for the most part, with Azure at the premium level. And that's live today. That's in GA. Windchill Plus, Creo Plus, on the digital thread portfolio, and Arena and Onshape and the Velocity portfolio have also enabled conversational search with some enhancements around design and requirements and some supply chain stuff. And because of their in the service management area, again, the digital thread side, which is Windchill and Creo, is on Azure, and the Velocity side is on AWS. Dassault has introduced in beta some virtual companions on top of their infrastructure. Allows you to search through stuff. It's in beta, but available to all customers. We'll talk about it in a minute. They're sort of an exception because they've got their own cloud provider called Outscale, and they have a big, very interesting relationship with Mistral, the French AI unicorn. Fusion at Autodesk. Some people may have seen on the web the things from Autodesk University. They announced also in beta conversational stuff on AWS, and in fact, all the AI stuff inside is done with Azure. Eris also announced a bunch of stuff, and some of it GA, most of it in beta, in terms of AI-assisted search and natural language queries. And lastly, because I always get beat up when I don't mention Contact by Melanie, there's the Melanie SIM data, the Contact SIM database in Elements IoT, which is also in beta with some rudimentary capabilities. I'd say today, PTC and Siemens are a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of just the fact that they're the only ones with fully GA capabilities and conversational chatbots or copilots. So the next class up is agentic, and we just had an absolutely stupendous example from Synera on what that can actually look like. I think that there's three classes of these, or three levels. There's a level which is advise and enrich. There's a level of assisting and a level of automating. What I'd like to say is there's different levels of autonomy that you give the agent. Either he's not allowed to do anything on his own, he's allowed to do one or two things under human supervision, or he can actually automate an entire workflow end to end. So that's sort of where we're going. Where are we today? PTC released in September, October, so relatively recently, a Vault agent to look at the stuff that's in your Vault and do some summaries and stuff. There's also some stuff over in the service side, ServiceMax and Servigistics. The new CEO, Neil, was a ServiceMax guy, so of course they're going to put a lot of effort over there. And those are actually available today. They don't have a lot more than that. There's a lot more in the can, but that's where they're going. Siemens recently, very late September, I saw the announcement for a lifecycle analysis, or like a sustainability agent, was able to look at compliance across multiple systems. They haven't been talked a lot more about their agentic approach, but this is a very promising agentic opportunity. I mentioned already that Dassault has this agent that people can use already called Aura. I've talked to them, and their plan is to have agents across all the different engineering disciplines. So not just one Innovia agent, but an Innovia agent that understands requirements or project management or classification or the BOM. And then the other brands, Innovia, Delmia, Simulia, et cetera, would have specialized agents for each of their things. So you could imagine a requirements agent in Innovia talking to a No Magic agent in the MBSC world in CATIA and figuring stuff out. So that's pretty powerful, but only the agent, the conversational agent Aura, is in generalized beta. There's a couple customers using some of the features, but it's still rolling out in 26 and going forward. Eris at their ACE event earlier this year announced Innovator Edge. They're fully powered by Azure and Copilot, which has agentic access to the entire Innovator data model, and you can actually detach services with direct Innovator access to any server you want. It's pretty powerful. in limited beta, but coming early 2026. And I had to mention them because they were actually the first one out the gate that I can find in terms of doing agentic PLM, which is Propel. They launched their platform in 2025. If you look on my LinkedIn, I'm actually interviewing Russ Meyercord, the CEO of Propel, in a couple of weeks. And so I'd say the most advanced are Aris and Propel from an architecture point of view and a roadmap point of view right now. Moving right along, industrial metaverse, that's when you're using AR and VR in order to explore your systems in 3D and get immediate feedback into manufacturing. There's 3 levels there. I call them visualize, collaborate, and simulate and act. So behind the hype, there is actually a protocol called OpenUSD, the Universal Scene Description, which is an open standard, which Siemens, PTC, and DS have all invested in, and NVIDIA has their own flavor of that called the Omniverse. So this is actually happening today. PTC has announced support for this with Creo, and they have some of the building blocks, but it's not completely there yet. It's planned. Dassault is metaverse ready, but it's more on workflows between exchanging files. That being said, they do have some good progress of virtual twins between CATIA and ModSim, so a space to watch. Siemens is a bit the most advanced. They have a very big alliance with NVIDIA over this. They're already using NX and Teamcenter to send data into the Omniverse for simulation and optimization, and then validated changes back to PLM and MES. Already being used by GE aircraft engines and turbines, and also by Siemens itself as a manufacturer. I mentioned the software startup market. It's absolutely exploding. There's even unicorns in there. PhysicsX and Rescale, they're both worth over $1 billion. And the amazing thing is getting to like the best technology right away, as we were demonstrated a moment ago by the Synera guys. I have actually 9 categories. I'll just show you 3 of them, or 5 of them here. Design intelligence, which is sort of the generative design stuff that Blake was talking about, where AI is delivering lightning fast design insight and flawless decisions. And some examples of companies like that are Entop, which Blake talked about, Plasticity, which is an amazing modeling software, and Axial 3D doing modeling for medicine and for surgery. Extreme Analytics, which is the Synera test case, but there's also SimScale talking today, or Quantient, who I've interviewed, and you can find that on LinkedIn. That's quantum simulation, all this stuff using physics at scale, using AI in order to drive the revolution in fusion and so forth. Adaptive manufacturing, lots of techniques around additive and subtractive manufacturing with very bleeding edge vendors like Cloud NC, Spare Parts 3D, or Up to Parts. And I wanted to also point out, it's not just the US. A lot of the companies I'm showing here are actually in Germany and the UK and France, so it's not a US only, a San Francisco only party. Cognitive thread is what I call the guys that the startups that are looking across multiple parts of the product life cycle. So there's PLM companies, but there's also companies doing model-based system engineering like Dallas, or looking at manufacturability, design for manufacturability like Hestis. Pretty amazing stuff happening there. And lastly, I look at factory futures, which are guys doing MES, IoT, like NUS in France. They're doing actually machines talking to the people that created the machines inside the factory to say, hey, I need to be serviced. Pretty cool stuff, as well as RISE and First Resonance, which has a factory operating system. So it's a really, really thrilling ecosystem. I encourage you to read about it. All of these have summaries on my LinkedIn page, and I've been interviewing them one by one. 2 by 2, sorry. So what's the future? Well, today we're sort of tailing off. Well, theoretically, the Copilot's age should have ended last year because we had agents coming out thanks to Anthropic. As we saw, that vendors aren't always catching up, but basically the Copilot age was yesterday, and we're in the age now of agentic workflows like what Synera showed us, where we can do end-to-end tasks with traceability. What we'll see tomorrow is cognitive systems, where the reasoning and closed-loop intelligence allows us to reason across design, simulation, and manufacturing in order to do more autonomous design, which is really exciting. I think we'll start seeing that in 2027. In order to do that, though, we're going to need cognitive grounding, contextual reasoning around the prompt response, getting beyond the prompt response AI. We'll need to be able to do dynamic tool orchestration. Again, Scenario showed a great example of that across mechanical engineering, but we'd also eventually want to go to MES and to other stacks and parallel in order to look at, actually we can't manufacture that because that part is no longer available, so maybe we need to look at design alternatives, et cetera. And then if we could get, the final step would be closed loop validation, where the design agents are talking to the simulation agents, or talking to manufacturing agents, or even talking to field agents, getting feedback, and then pushing that back into the system like we saw with the industrial metaverse. So I think that by 2027, engineering intelligence actually becomes business intelligence, because copilots are evolving into self-validating cognitive systems and becoming more of a central investment piece of the company rather than a cost center, which they've been so far. So that's my talk. My name is Michael Finocchiaro again. You can come find me on my blog, and thanks a lot for inviting me. I wanted to apologize, Miss. I won't be at the debate later because I've got a date with Hamlet, hoping that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern don't get killed tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Please do let us know what happens in the end. Okay, thank you so much, Michael. So we've heard from the history and future of generative design. We've seen some agentic AIs. We've seen some of the PLM developments that are happening very, very fast.